Hello guys, welcome to the studio. We're going to do another horse today. It's going to be number 4. I've done 2 extra ones on my own, so I picked up this one because it's the 2 other ones were black horse on a white background, and I think I have a white horse on the dark background as well. This one is interesting because I like the combination of it's not a white horse. So it's going to be mostly about gray. If you kind of caliber the white versus the gray, the black, and so on. So the only white spot we have really is the right foot, somewhere here, and pretty much the rest is all a combination of gray. So it's I really like to play with those grays. So we're going to start. So once again, you remember I cropped the image to fit roughly the size of my paper. It doesn't have to be perfect, we can play a little bit up and down, blah, blah, it doesn't really matter, but most of it, the image I'm working from has about the same size as my paper. And so I'm working on that paper, taped it. I mean, you kind of, I guess, use a little bit more now to my setting. That's the palette with all the colors. So I just wanted, we're going to do black and white, but I just wanted to point out the way, my colors are on display on my palette. This one is already dry, that dries so fast. You see, it's like a rainbow. So yellow, orange, red, green, blah, blah. My black is up there, my white is up here. So my colors are always put the same way on the palette. I'm kind of really organized when it comes to this kind of thing. I think that helps me to, I think we all have our little habits. That's mine. Okay, so now I'm going to start. We already done that, so it's always difficult to start because we don't really know where to start. So, because the scene is so complex. So I'm just going to mark some lines for me that are important. I have this beautiful triangle here that goes from here to here. The top of the horse is roughly here. Then we have this curve here with the thing that turns here. The tail, it goes from here to here. You see, if I plunge that line, you see it? It goes from here to here. So I'm just up. It's going to help, to just have this thing in our mind where it's just geometric shapes. I feel like that black line in the back is about half the way from here to here. The inside of the leg, look at that strong line that goes, so I can use my brush to prolong it, and it goes from here, and if I prolong it, it goes roughly here, so somewhere here. Then this line here, the underbelly, so let me put you here so you see better. The underbelly, it's almost like if you prolong the tail, if you expand the tail, you're going to arrive here. And that thing is going to give you the belly. The belly goes back, so it doesn't go so low. I think it's more like here. And then if I prolong the belly, it's going to give that big feeling it's coming here. Somewhere here. Then the belly and the back, they kind of work together. This angle is here, and that line is interesting because it's going to eat exactly the foot. So my foot is here somewhere, so that line with the head is here. What about the neck? So let's get the neck done. So the neck, same thing, I'm using my brush and I'm just going to prolong it on so we go from here roughly to here. Okay, so that's going to be some line like this. So you see, I'm drawing without even thinking about what I'm drawing. And you know, I always say mapping, that's exactly the thing. So the foot goes from here to, okay, if I prolong that line, it's about here, so somewhere like this. So we're gonna have that like this, like this, like this. I feel like the top of the, I mean the neck, the back of the neck is coming from that point to somewhere here, so it's gonna be like this. And you know, if you draw like this everything, you know, you don't get overwhelmed, you just draw lines after lines after line. There's gonna be at some point where you're gonna have the whole drawing. So I have the shoulder here that goes down to the elbow. So I think that the horses are called ongulidés. I will double check, but that means that walks on one finger, one nail. And actually their foot is one nail. So it's almost like they work. So you have the elbow, so you have the shoulder. You have the shoulder here that goes down to the elbow, and that goes down to here, which is the equivalent of the wrist, and it's a bit inside, and then the finger. So you see, it's really important when you draw something that complex that you simplify as much as you can. So the leg goes from here to here, and we have that. And as I'm going to paint, I'm going to double check all those measurements all the time to make sure that I'm not off somewhere. And if I'm off somewhere, I will just modify it. What about the thickness? I think my horse is a bit too thick here. So let's see if I go, it's about here. Yes, you see, I feel like, for example, if I look through that line, it goes here, yes. And then the belly might go a bit higher actually here. And it catch with my elbow, which makes more sense because I felt the elbow was too long, the shoulder was too long. Okay, so here I can just erase it. Okay, and now I can start. I mean, I'm already painting, but now I'm going to paint even more with the big area of black, like this here. The beautiful hair, like this. You know, there's some variation of gray in that area, but for now, I'm just going to make it black. I will come back after with a lighter color. The ear, where is the ear? Oh, look, the ear is really interesting because the ear just hit exactly this angle here. It goes exactly in the corner. I have some gray here. And you know, that's what I was saying on the previous video. When I start something like this, I'm overwhelmed, like you are. I'm sure you are overwhelmed. I mean, maybe not. Maybe you're an experienced painter, and so you don't feel like this thing is really complicated. To me, I feel it's really complicated. So I'm a bit overwhelmed. I'm thinking I might not be able to do it. So the only way I can, you know, control those feelings is just to say, you know what? Trust yourself. Just have a method. Just have a protocol I'm going to apply to draw that thing. And at some point, I know that it's going to be okay. Okay, what about the tip of the nose? Okay, where is it? So now I have my elbow that is somewhere here. So regard to the elbow, the nose is somewhere here. And this area is pretty dark. Here I have this really dark triangle, really beautiful. And then the belly, the line of the belly, which is here, which is darker than what's underneath. So I'm going to create a lighter gray just to make sure. Okay, here. I have some dark gray here. I'm going to paint that foreground, which is a lighter gray. So I told you already, for me it's a bit confusing because for the camera purpose and for the quality of the film and so on, I'm putting some white tape around the paper. So sometimes it's hard for me to figure out where are the limits, mostly at the bottom. So I know I might be off a little bit, but that's okay. You know, if you have blue tape, that might work better for you because you will see really where the limit of your paper. I have a lighter gray here, and that goes a bit darker here. Same thing here. Okay. So you see, I have to adapt each time I paint something like this. I have to adapt to the subject. I cannot use exactly the same technique then if it's a dark horse on a clear background. If it's a dark horse on a clear background, I'm starting with the horse, the black area, but because this one is different, I'm starting from the outside to get to the inside. So you just need to adapt. You need to trust your judgment, your brain about what's the best thing to do. For me right now, it's pretty obvious that I need to leave some clear space inside because I'm going to come back with some lighter colors. Okay, what about that line? That line is pretty important because it gives a lot of tension in the drawing. So it goes a little bit. See if I prolong it, and by the way, I don't even have to prolong it, it's here. I see it, in the background. It's not as dark as this one, but it's pretty dark. And then I have the vertical here that goes somewhere here. And so this one now, I know where it is. Okay, then I have this line here. Okay, I have a lighter gray inside. I have a little gray here, and even a lighter gray here. Okay. So just by doing that, I already created a lot of information for me to work from. And once again, I'm balancing. So this one is lighter than this one, which is dark, which is about the same dark than this one. I have some lighter white here. Same thing here. Okay, now we can start working inside the horse. So I have a light area here, which is the tail, which goes a little bit like this. And don't work on the details unless you're really sure of the thing you're putting. Right now, I'm not sure of anything. So I'm not going to get into any detail yet. The detail will come naturally when I'm going to change of scale of tool, when I'm going to go closer and closer to the final results. But right now, I'm just fine with what I have. You just okay. I have a darker gray here. Okay, where is this one? So if I look, the relationship between that and that, it's somewhere here. And maybe this area is actually a bit bigger. I'm going to draw those horizontal, I mean, they're not horizontal, but those lines here, because they're going to give me a little bit of indication about what's going on. So this one is about here. I have a lighter color, a little bit lighter here, and one here, okay? And then I have a darker one here that goes from here. So I can double check with this one. You see, the junction here is okay. I mean, it's exactly where it should be. So by double checking all those information constantly, you're drawing something that is tremendously complex, but you cannot miss it because you're just applying some sort of a protocol, of a guidance, of a way of thinking, of doing things that's going to make you succeed. I have that beautiful black here. Okay, so this one goes pretty much from here to here. Okay, here. You see, I even touch it here, which is fine. I just, smear it. And actually, the neck of the horse. So I have this line here. I feel like my nose is too long, so but I will double check that when it's time. Right now, I'm working on something else. Okay, where is it? Regards to the knee, regards to the background, and so on. So like this. My leg here, and there's a okay, this black thing. You see, it responds to that actually. If you look at that line here, this one, it's exactly at the same level than this one. So it's simple. And all those lines, the way they dance together is why we picked up the image at the first place. It's why, because I chose that image, because those lines to me, when you look at an image and you feel, well, I want to paint that. The subject can be important. Of course, if you want to paint a cat, you're not going to pick up a gorilla. But on the other hand, the image of the cat you're going to pick up depends on all those harmonies that you see that you don't necessarily understand or be aware of, but they're actually the reason why you choose an image and not another one. So if you don't respect those tension, you're going to end up with an image which is going to be far away from the image you chose at the beginning, at the first place. And you might still like it because it's going to be a cat and not a gorilla, but you will say something is missing. And what's missing is the natural harmony of the image and the reason why you pick up that image. So it's really important. It's like when you do the portrait of someone, if you choose a model, there's a reason. You don't choose any model. I mean, you can paint anybody. That's not what I'm saying. But if sometimes I see people in the street or friends or whatever, and I'm just like, wow, I would love to paint that face because there's something about the harmony of the lines, the physicality of the person that I think is great. So if we don't catch that, then there's a lot of chance that the image we're going to paint is not going to be as powerful as what we wanted. And that's what we really want, is to get those magical lines that we love, that we say, wow, that's beautiful. And so in order to get those lines, we need to be demanding. We need to respect those proportions. We cannot just say, okay, you know what, if I'm off, it's still going to be as powerful. It can be a caricature, and some caricature are amazing, but caricature amplify those elements. They don't change them, they just amplify them. So once you know how to paint like this, you can paint in an expressionist way, still keeping the same dynamic, the same magic of those lines. So right now I'm just putting some grays, you know, because I know that, as I say, the lighter point is going to be here. And you see that beautiful movement of light on the back of the horse. So that's also something I'm going to have to capture if I want to have that moment of beauty that made me pick up the image. And if you follow that technique of painting, and you train, of course, you know, you're not going to get it. By the way, I've seen some people having tremendously progress or change in the way they paint just because they understand that technique. And that's why I'm trying to share with you those techniques, which, by the way, have been around for, you know, since the birth of humankind, since we started painting. It has always been like this, more or less, of course, but it's the technique of the painter from 2000 years ago until even today. You know, when we look at the work of Lucian Freud or you know, a lot of those amazing figurative painters, it's about the same thing. So you see, I'm just navigating, I'm just cruising, and the horse is getting to a point where now, first of all, you see it's a horse, and I'm not, you know, I'm not struggling, or I'm not fearing anything, because I'm just following something that is just right. So the point is, and I think one of the reasons the great master, and you know, I'm not necessarily a religious person or whatever, but there's something about understanding of the greatness of nature that has been common to all the great painters. And it's not about being religious or whatever, but it's about being humble. It's about understanding that that thing is much more complicated than anything we can imagine. And therefore, I need a lot of humility. I need a lot of looking at myself, thinking, maybe you don't know, because all I'm doing is doing that. It's doubting my own judgment. And it's why I double cross all those lines, because I'm thinking, you know, maybe when I put that here, for example, maybe it's not here, maybe it's somewhere else, maybe it's just a couple of millimeters left, right, up and down. And if I stick with that, saying, you know what, I'm right, whatever, I'm going to stick with that, then there's a lot of chance I'm going to fail. So it's really important for you to question everything you're doing all the time. And if you do that, then the painting is going to come to you, and not the way around. So what I mean by that is, at some point you're going to look at your painting thinking, wow, I'm good, you know? And the truth is that, yes, of course, you know, there's some quality or some skill that is necessary, but what we're celebrating as well is that beautiful world that we're witnessing. So see yourself as a witness when you paint like this. So you see, I'm moving that leg a little bit higher, and I'm changing that direction, because I'm seeing that line here is actually pretty much aligned with this one. And that matters, because that's what's going to give that leg such a strength. Our brain see that dark line and that lighter one. So if you paint that, then of course your leg's going to be stronger. And as you can tell, you know, I'm not I'm not even thinking, I'm not even struggling. And it took me a very long time to understand that, you know, I mean, I'm not a magician or whatever. I worked a lot, and I looked a lot at the old masters and how they do things. And actually, one of the things I love the most about the great masters is not necessarily their talent, it's their humility, it's the way they recognize that they're wrong. And I wish sometimes I could apply that in my everyday life, because I'm like everybody else. Sometimes, you know, I get a little bit troubled, or whatever you call it. Well, actually, painting is a lesson about life. We can apply everything I'm telling you to our everyday life. You know, like, for example, we have time. So many times I'm too much in a hurry, and I don't know why. I should be more aware of what I do in my paintings. That would help me as a human being a lot, actually. Because, you know, sometimes we get frustrated, we jump everywhere, we scream, we yell, we get mad, we get offended, we get you know, someday we have bad days. And strangely, when we have a bad day, there's a lot of chance that the whole day is going to be bad. There's going to be more stuff happening. While if we were taking the same patience that we have for the painting and saying, you know what, I was happy, I was laughing 2 days ago, well, I'm not laughing today. Or because, you know, life, because I got a bill in the mail, or because okay, wait another 3 days and you're going to laugh again. So why don't you do it now? And it's the same thing. If you paint with the same serenity, I mean, with that kind of emotion about, you know, I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky to be alive. I'm just lucky to witness that beautiful animal. I'm just lucky to do something that keep my brains busy, and where I celebrate the beauty of the universe, and so on. I mean, it's not a bad way to be to the world. And now I'm starting seeing things more and more. You know, there was a lot of overwhelming feelings at the beginning, and now there's a feeling of excitement because things start, you know, getting together. And I don't feel like I'm overly struggling or, you know, in pain because I'm not succeeding or whatever. No, I'm just, okay, fine, whatever, you know. And once again, I'm ADD. So, and we need to be ADD. We need to paint everywhere at the same time. I mean, because what I'm going to do here is going to impact what I'm going to do here. And the reciprocity is true. So if I paint that, spend hours there, and then I realize that it's completely off with that, then I'm going to have to redo it. It's why I'm saying it's so important to work everything at the same time. And you know, as I show you with that dark line in the back, everything impacts your image. Every single detail is part of the story you're telling. And thinking that something is not important because you know, like for example, we could think, oh my gosh, you know, what's important is the face, the head of the horse. But the head of the horse is actually a result of everything else. Okay, let's just, you know, go back a little bit into the drawing because I need some validation. I need some thing that's going to tell me that I'm right. So, I mean, I'm not right, but I'm closer. I'm getting closer. So, for example, let's go back to for me, that elbow is really important. So now, if I go back to that and I double cross it. So first of all, the limit of the elbow is about here. So I might be a bit too short. Okay. Is it true? Is it not true? Let's double check with something else. That line here goes perfectly in the elbow. You see how that line here goes here. So this thing is actually not, this one might be too, I need to fix it a little bit. I need to shorten that, not shorten, but okay, like this. Then this line goes there. And then I have the neck of the horse that goes here. That goes from here to here. So actually, I might be off here. So it's really dark. So I'm just going to paint that little gray scale that I have in the back. Here it's all dark. So, and then I have this thing here. Actually, look how beautiful it is. The verticality of that just arrived here. So always try to find elements that's going to help you to confront, to validate, to make sure that what you're doing is at the right place. Like for example, this line here, this gray line. No, it's lower, and I have the information from here as well. Actually, just in the middle of the leg here, so it's here. And it might not be perfectly here. I might have to move it again. It's why I'm saying never put anything you cannot move. You have to always keep that humility about saying, you know what, I might have to move something because maybe I didn't put it at the right place. And you see now, look how the elbow feels more in place. And all I did was double checking with other information to make sure that I was not completely off. And I want you to spend a lot of time looking at the photo and not, I mean, spend time looking at what you're painting, of course, but remember one thing, what's important is the subject. The painting, you're just witnessing, you're a witness. You're trying to explain to someone, oh, you know, yesterday I went to that barn, or I was walking in the suburb, I mean, in the country, and I saw that beautiful horses. And the guy said, oh, can you show me? And that's what we're doing. We're trying to create something where we can show people what we saw that is so beautiful. And if you can share the beauty of something, you're going to create a beautiful painting. It's that simple. A beautiful painting is quite often the witnessing of something beautiful. And you know, you don't need necessarily to paint figurative horses or whatever. I mean, it can be something totally personal, like, you know, there's a lot of contemporary painter who do amazing things. I'm thinking about Peter Doig, I'm thinking about, you know, Hernan Bass and people like this, and even abstract, you know. I mean, we'll talk about abstracts, you know. We can even have a little lesson one day about abstract. The thing is that abstract is more about abstraction is more about discovering sometimes your own technique. Okay. I usually paint those horses in about 1 hour, 1 hour 30. I'm a bit upset because I did a beautiful one a couple of days ago, and when I did it on the computer, for some reason I did something wrong and the video didn't go through. But you know, it's okay. I still have the painting. Those things are, those little things are actually due to the lens of the camera. It's why it's circular. If the lens of the camera was square, then those lines could be different. But it's okay, let's just have fun with that and make them a bit blurry, just to create some background. Because of course, you know, what's interesting as well is that we have a dark line here. So the skin of the coat of the horse is light on dark, while in some areas, in other areas, it's going to be the way, on the opposite way. Maybe not necessarily on this image, but you will find, you will definitely find some time where it starts with light on dark and it goes from dark to light and so on, and reciprocity. And when you start seeing those things, that's really enjoyable. Because, you know, as every knowledge or every experience, the more you're going to experience, the more you're going to see, the more you're going to understand, the more pleasure you're going to get. It's a little bit like, you know, going to a good restaurant. If you bring a child to a good restaurant, he might enjoy it, but he might also say, wow, why should I eat snails? Or things like this. And quite often it's a matter of education. It's more a matter of you know, getting to a place of experimentation than anything else. So the more you're going to train your eyes, the more you're going to see the colors, the more you're going to enjoy it. So I'm still doing the same thing, you know, judging, placing thing, double checking the lines, and once again, just being a witness of that beautiful moment. You know, the fact that we paint from photos, I know there's some question, you know, people say, why don't you paint from I mean, if you paint from a photo, why don't you just hang up the photo? First of all, it's not the same thing, because now you clearly understand that we won't copy the photo. That's not the point. We are witnessing something and we transcript it. I don't know if you say that, but we translate it into something really intimate and something really personal. So you see there's this beautiful white line here. And I have a little trick when I get overwhelmed by the amount of information, and I start seeing, I don't see them anymore. There's two solutions there. The first one is to stop painting. Just leave the painting in the studio for a couple of days and come back to it in, you know, whenever you can, whenever you want. But that's a long, you know, it's kind of a long thing, because, you know, it can take a couple of days or whatever. So the other thing I'm doing is I'm going into the background. You know, I'm just walking away from the main subject and I'm just painting the background. I do that often with the portraits, when I do portraits, where I just walk away from the complexity of the portrait and I'm just having fun, or, you know, because of course there's much less tension in the background, in the truth of the background, than in the face of the horse or the face of someone. You know, like, for example, if I misplace, if I put something not exactly where it should be and so on, in the background is not as important if it is just in the middle of the the face of the horse, of course. Or if you do a portrait. So take the time to give yourself the time. And of course, at some point, it's going to be linked to your capacity of seeing the proportion. So like, for example, if I show you a square or something that is a bit higher vertical than a square and it's actually a rectangle, and you cannot judge that, of course, that's going to be a bit more challenged. Now, that said, there's a lot of painters like El Greco, like Soutine, that have changed the proportion of things, but because they kept the same demand and the same perception the whole time, it actually works perfectly. So I'm not asking you to do a photorealistic painting. I'm asking you to just witness. And if you're a good witness, then what you see is what you see. You know, nobody's going to question the authenticity of now, if you I won't say lie, but if you don't translate things with humility and you just start telling stories that didn't occur, there's a lot of chance that people are going to look at you saying, you know what, I don't believe you. But now if you're honest, if you really say, I saw that, then, you know, people might just think you're a bit crazy or whatever. You know, like if you say you've seen a UFO or something. But if it's, if you're convinced by it, and if you're honest, and if you're not trying to lie or whatsoever, then people are going to say, yeah, okay, fine, you know. And you always have people who follow you, and but it's true for everything, you know. You can be the greatest painter in the world. You can be Rembrandt. You still have people who don't like Rembrandt. It's not universal. It's not like everybody loves Rembrandt. But he was an amazing witness of his own condition, by the way, of his own face, of his own age, of his own humanity. And it's actually something really interesting to think about that, to think, you know, maybe Rembrandt, the main talent in Rembrandt was to be honest. He never lied, you know. He saw himself the way he painted himself. And I think it's why one of the reasons we connect so well with those painters is because at the end of the day, you know, we can rely to them because we trust them. Because, you know, they might not say what we want to hear, but they say it with a lot of humility and a lot of honesty and a lot of kindness. You know, the great thing about the way I approach painting, and once again, it's not, I didn't invent it, you know, I mean, it's just, I didn't invent anything. I'm just, I might be more trained and therefore better than some people, but, you know, it's just something I've seen a lot and learned in museum and so on. But the great thing about the way I paint is that if you do it, you will succeed. Whatever you do, you will get the result at some point. It might take some time, but it's not, you know, it's not training like a, you know, like for example, if you do weightlifting at the gym, that's a training. You're training your muscles. Here, it's more a matter of, and don't make me wrong, I'm not saying that in a pretentious way, but it's more a matter of intelligence. It's more a matter of understanding the process and trusting the process. I mean, you can trust your body. If you try to lift 1,000 pounds, you won't do it. But here it's different. We're not, it's not a competition. It's not who's better. You just, how much can you share with other people? So there's another thing that's really important in all that process as well, is understanding what's important and what is not. And usually those information are given to you by the image. You don't have to really think about it, you just look and you're going to figure out that there's elements in that image that are really important. And there's elements that are not so much. And once again, the great thing about that technique is that it's going to come naturally. So what I mean by that is that you have some lines that are really powerful, like this leg. You can tell it's coming in the front, like this one is really powerful. That's really powerful. But you have other things that are not, like this leg, it has to go. If you pay too much, if I paint that leg with too much accuracy or too much, you know, if I make it too strong, then this leg is going to come in front of the other ones or in front of the painting, and then I'm going to miss the point about that dynamic, because once again, I picked up that photo for a reason. And that reason is that the harmony of what I saw attract me. I just say, wow, I like that image. And if I respect that image, if I paint it with a lot of humility and a lot of love, then there's a lot of chance that I'm going to be able to translate it in a really nice way where other people are going to be able to enjoy it as well. Like you see the belly, for example. The belly of the horse, gone, disappear. My line here is too strong. If you look at the original and my line here, it's way too strong. So I'm bringing a weight on that image because of that line. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to soften it. And you're going to see that by softening that line, I actually create the dynamic I was looking for. So everything matters. You know, same thing, the background has a lot of blurriness into it. And that's so important because you don't want those things to come in front. So I'm going to do what I call passage. So that means I'm just going to make those lines a bit blurry, you know, working with my dry brush on it, because I don't want those lines to come and, you know, damage the other lines that are much more important to me. And you see I'm painting the background, so while I'm painting the background, I'm not looking at the horse. So now when my eyes are going to go back on the horse, I'm going to see the whole thing with a fresh eye, and that's what I need. I always need to be fresh. I need to refresh my eyes so I see the things. Otherwise I'm like everybody else. I get overwhelmed and I'm just completely off, you know. You see, for example, here there's a passage, here. The back of the horse, just here, that point. The back of the horse, you cannot tell the difference between the background and the horse. That thing here is amazing because it's going to give us something that's going to make the horse participate to the whole image. So it's not like I'm cutting out a horse and putting in front of some background. And I think if you chose to follow my lessons and my tutorial, it's because you like my work, and my work is all about that. It's all about my portraits. The face and the background are not separated, and the reason why, it's because I paint this way. I paint, you know, I pay attention to everything because everything is the same. I mean, is the horse more important than the background? Yes, he is. Now, if I paint the horse, cutting out the horse from the background, then I'm going to lose the idea of that horse being part of the thing. So I would deserve, I would be oh geez, there's some words that are difficult to say. Counterproductive? Yeah, I think it's that. By doing so, because I would just say basically, you know what, the horse is whatever, and I don't care about the background. I mean, you can do that. You know, it's a decision we can make. Like, for example, I could decide to paint that horse on a completely white background. It's possible, but then it's a decision. It's another thing. It's and why not? I mean, it's I do it sometimes, by the way. But in order to do that, we need to start with things like this. We need to understand the gradation, the scale of grays, the judging what's important, what is not. The thing is, when you go to art school, I mean, not all art school, but the most of the art school, at certain points, you can choose your teachers. So you can decide, I'm going to go with this guy or this guy. The teachers you choose says a lot about who you are and the approach you want to have on your own painting. So you see, like, I'm sorry, I'm ADD. You see how that gray gets into the leg here, look. And by doing that, now the leg is part of the background of the whole thing. So anyway, I was saying, yeah, you can choose your teacher, and once again, there's a lot of different approach. Some people say, oh, you should choose the teacher that is the further away from what you want to paint, because if he's close to the way you want to paint, there's a lot of chance you're going to try to copy what he's doing, and you're going to just become an avatar of that teacher. I don't know. I will let you decide on that. I don't really have a point on that. I think it's mostly just work, just paint, just listen to other people's point of view. Just once again, just be humble. So you see, my belly is actually, it feels it's black, but it's not. I mean, even that line, maybe there's one black line here, but here definitely, I don't feel it's that dark. I think it's lighter than this black. Okay, now I have another problem. Okay, with that belly. The elbow is included into the belly. It's exactly the same level, right? So that means either my elbow is too low or my belly is too high. Okay, let's double check again. Okay, the lowest point is here, so it's that bump on the leg. Okay, so I have the leg here. Can even work on this one a little bit. There's something magical happening here. I will get back to it and I will tell you what I think is really beautiful. So if I take the elbow, for example, regard to that point here, okay, that point, the crossing point between the back leg and, I mean, the two back legs. So here, if I go, the belly is a bit higher, okay? So my belly should be fine. So what is not is actually my elbow. My elbow is a lot higher. It's here, actually. So if that's the case, then, okay, first of all, I have a perfect circle. Oh my gosh, look at this one. This thing here, going back here, is a perfect circle. So this thing is actually more here. So you see what I mean when I say you need to be able to change things all the time. If I was stuck, if I could not move that line, I would be stuck with something surely that is not right. And even even the distance between that and my elbow is about the same distance than that and that. So let's measure it quickly. Yeah, the elbow needs to be a little bit more here. So by doing those things, you see, double checking, there will be some point where my elbow will be perfectly at the right place. Okay, so I was going to tell you something else that is really beautiful. And I love this kind of thing. The background here is black, and the leg is a wider color, clearer color here. And then just here, just underneath, right underneath, is the way around. And I love this kind of thing. I think that's what's really fascinating, and that's why I love to work black and white. It's because sometimes with color, it's more difficult to see those things, because of course with colors the informations are more complicated to judge. You know, I mean, if you have a yellow, orange, and a blue or something, it's sometimes difficult to evaluate those colors. Black and white, no, it just gives you the true information. Same thing, I feel like this thing here is not good. It's more here. So that means my leg here is not good either. It's more like here. And it's more like here. So same thing, I'm changing things. And it's okay, I can change them. It's not like a, you know, I'm... So now you know why I'm doing that, because instantly, oh geez, I'm struggling with the English today. From instinct, I know that I need to walk away from that because I'm overwhelmed. I don't see things anymore. So I'm going to work on the tail a little bit just to say, Laurent, you need to calm down and you need to go back to your thinking of judging. Okay, so let's go back. Now I have this line here. Okay, that's fine. I have this line here, yes. Now this thing is more here. And I have this, oh look, that's beautiful. If you go from here to here, you have a straight line here. So that's going to give me the bottom of that leg. And now it's not okay because the distance between here and here is a bit different. So I think I need more volume here. And you see, by doing that, I create something that is kind of something pretty extraordinary. First of all, I was able to erase something I've done. I was able to contradict myself. I was able to admit I was not right. And all those little elements will, will help you even in life. You know, if we can just admit sometimes we're wrong, that could help. And when you paint, it's a lot about that. I'm struggling a little bit with that. You know, one of the reasons I picked up that horse is because I knew it would be challenging. Because the complexity of the relationship between the horse and the background is really, really fascinating. And you know, sometimes it's better to fail on a really difficult painting than to succeed on an easy one. There's a painting by Cézanne, the great Cézanne, that is it's a guy reading the newspaper, and he failed so much on that painting. And it's a beautiful painting because it's a fail. Because you can tell he's just like, oh my gosh, I cannot make it. And you want to support him. You want to say, come on, you can do it. And at the end, the painting is fascinating because he failed, but by accepting he failed, he actually succeeded. And you know, I'm not asking you to be a beautiful loser, but not everybody can win all the time. still a bit sick. I got that cold. We in Florida, we should not get cold. I don't know, it's just what it is. Okay, cleaning my eyes, doing a little bit work on the background. So, you know, anyway, it's work I have to do. So it's not like a, you know, it's not something bad. I have this beautiful area of light in the back that's just so pretty. That gives the, you know, actually the strength of the belly of the horse comes from also, and for most part to me, come from that beautiful light in the back. I have another problem that I'm gonna have to look into. Still with that front leg. You see the front leg, if I draw a vertical from that leg, it's just almost here. I'm about, I would say easily 1 centimeter, so that means a third of an inch off. The leg is actually here. Once again, it's why I told you need to be able to move everything all the time. Because I'm going to double check, and that's going to give so much more truth to the horse than if I was just trying to make you believe that my mistake is the truth. Okay, so that means that a lot of things needs to be moved a little bit. So that shadow here, that's going to lead to this beautiful curve here. And I have that dark area here. I also have that is more here. This one. And you know, don't be upset if you think like, oh, you're wrong. You know, there are some days where we have a natural propension to be able to judge the proportions, and there's some days we're not. You know, it's like with everything else. You know, we have good days and we have days that are a bit more tougher. If it's a tough day, there will be good ones. Should we give up because it's a tough day? I don't think so. I think tough days are actually preparing the good ones. And surviving a tough day means that if we have a good one the next day, we're going to be so much better. So I don't give up. And by the way, a lot of young painters, it's because they give up that they don't make it. So just don't give up. Just, you know, it's going to take maybe more time, but it's fine. And you know, I think one of the things I really like about painting is because I'm also making progress in my way of painting, and it's something that makes me feel good because, you know, as a kid I wanted to be a painter, and my reference was not Picasso. My reference was really classical, old school painters. I learned how to love Picasso later on in my life, and I love a lot of, I'm a big fan of de Kooning, Rothko, and a lot of contemporary painter. So it's not like I'm seeing only the classical. But on the other hand, I must say that, the first love was for the great masters. I remember my mom used to have a tapestry she made. You know those kind of tapestry where you buy the thing, it's almost like by number. They sell you the thread, and they are colored thread, and you just have to pay to do the tapestry. And so, it's nothing really classy but there's a lot of people who learn art this way because they don't have access to museum. Going to a museum is still a luxury. You need to be in a big city where there's museums and so on. I mean, there's a lot of people who cannot go to a museum because they just don't have the money. So sometimes their education or their understanding of art is also based on that lack of possibilities. Now, of course, with the internet, it's a bit different, but I mean, there's still a lot of kids in Africa who will never see the Mona Lisa. And, I wish it would be different, but I don't think we're going to change the humanity overnight. You see, I'm glad I didn't start. I mean, even if I had started the head and so on, I would have done exactly the same work of double checking and so on. So I would have realized at some point my mistake. So it's not like it's not like I'm worried about some area I didn't paint. You see the other videos maybe, and usually I paint everything at the same time and so on. On this one, it's a bit different because the image is different, because every time it's a different adventure. So I want to have that thing more blurry so I can blend it with my finger. Okay, so that beautiful line here. How can I? Okay, let's try to look at that. You see, look at that. That thing with the neck and how it's connected to the hair here. And now we can make sure we're not missing that harmony. As I said earlier, I feel like if I move that thing here, and that means my leg here is going to be more like this, and now it makes more sense with that, what's happening in the background. Because there was something a little bit off, and I just corrected it. And if you see something, just you write it. You know, I saw that line that, you know, make the belly a bit more. So the belly is still here. I have a little gray here that makes things really pretty. And now, of course, the nose is a bit shorter and it makes more sense as well. And there's a point where, if you follow those concept of, you know, changing a thing, looking at the other one, and so on, at some point it's fascinating because things are actually at the right place. Of course, at some point they are at the right place, and then everything makes more sense. It's more easy because you don't end up with a line and you're just like, wow, where is it going? Why is my leg on his head, for example, or something like this? You know, kind of crazy, but. Look, for example, that, so I have this beautiful line here, which is the chest. And look how it's dancing perfectly with the harness. It's almost like it's going like this and like this. And then if it's going like this, then that means my nose is still a bit too long. Okay. I don't know what's that. Now maybe you're starting seeing things, you know, like that were like, for example, for this, I was working on it for a little while and I was kind of lost. And now, with everything else I put together, then it makes more sense. So now I can get into those legs and make them more accurate because of everything else I've done. Okay. I feel this thing, I don't know what it does, what it is, it just bugs me. Up. And so you see my brush is almost dry. What I mean by dry is that I don't have a lot of colors on it, so I can really brush gently some of the areas. And I'm working in the, it's not to try to create some sort of a fake coat or whatever, it's just because of the movement of the brushwork kind of has to follow the coat of the horse. It's kind of inevitable. And horses are one of the most complicated things to paint. There's some, I think the best, among the best painters of horses, there's military painters. There was a guy, his name was Edouard de Taille, Detaille. He was from the 19th century, and he was a military painter. And his horses are just phenomenal. And the funny thing is that he's reusing the same horse for different paintings. So that means that you see a horse, an officer on his horse, for example, and you see another officer on exactly the same horse. And he reused the same drawing, the same, pretty much the same horse for another painting. There's actually a funny story about it. There's this guy, his name is Edward Muybridge, and he's a photographer. And so it was pretty much at the same time than the invention of cinematography. But Muybridge, at the time, there was no film. There was no camera for filming. So we didn't know a lot about movement, you know. I mean, it's pretty difficult to ask a horse to stop, to freeze while he's running, so you can look at his legs. So imagine all the guys for hundreds of years, they were looking at horses running, trying to understand how do they run, you know, what's the pattern and so on. And so there's a lot of paintings, ancient paintings, where the horse has the four legs up, no legs are touching the ground while he's running. And so Edward Muybridge, he took a bunch of cameras, you know, those big boxes, wooden box, with little ropes, and he had the horse, or he did that with horses, with men, with any kind of animal, dogs and so on. And so as they run, they break the ropes and they take the photo. And so it's the first time we can see the movement. And I'm sure you've seen some of those photos in some magazine or museum or whatever. And so they realized at that time when he did that, that the horse has actually, even when he's at full speed, has always at least 1 foot touching the ground. They never, unless they jump, but if they're running, they have all legs on the floor. I mean, one leg always on the floor, touching the ground. This one is really difficult because we have a lot of contrast on a really small surface. So I'm just gonna clean my eyes, work a little bit somewhere else because I don't see that freaking leg anymore. I'm confused. You know, talking about camera and photos and movies and so on. Painters have been working from photos for a very long time. Like Degas was working from photos, even Delacroix was working from photos. A lot of them were using photo reference as soon as the photo was invented. And so I did my art school in Lyon, which is a big town in the center of France. And that's the city of the Lumière brothers. So the Lumière brothers, it's funny because their name means light in French, and they invented cinematography. So they created the camera, and in order to create the camera, the first movie camera, they had to create the film. So they went to, I don't remember exactly all the details, but okay, just for you to know, the fruit is actually okay, so I have that here. As I'm talking to you, I'm also correcting myself. Anyway, so they came, it's out there. Okay, look, so let me draw that because now I'm confused. Okay, here, and the shoe is about here. It's not a shoe, I know it's pretty much a nail. I don't know the name in English. Okay, but anyway, so the Lumière brother asked a studio, or maybe they created themselves, I don't remember the story exactly, but they asked to make a movie, a film, where they could use with their with their camera because they could not use silver plates, because otherwise, it would have been impossible. So they create a film, and it's a really funny story. So they create that film, and the film, the size of the images on the film are 24 by 36. They had to pick up something. So they say, okay, 24 by 36, let's do that. So they create the film, and they start shooting film in Lyon, and in the area of Lyon, like there's a famous one with the railroad station and so on. And the really funny thing is that some photographers saw that and they say, wow, that would be cool to have a camera using the same film so we don't have to use those big silver plates. And if I remember the story well, they start using the film of the Lumière brother to create cameras. And it's how we came up with the 24 by 36 millimeter cameras. They originally movies film for cinema, not for photo. And so the other thing that is pretty interesting is why 24 by 36? It's not a standard size in classical paintings. Classical paintings, all the frames of classical paintings are based on the golden number. We'll talk about the golden number because it's really something fascinating. Anyway, the golden number is a magical number. I mean, it's not magical, but it's a number we find in so many things, like the snails, the way they grow, the way the plant grow, and so on and so on. So those 24, those size were not at all 24 by 36. So the Lumière brother decided 24 by 36. I guess because it was convenient for some mechanical issues. Definitely not some problem with the harmony of the image per se. And so we've been taking photo with the same 24 by 36 for hundreds, maybe not hundreds of years, but for a very long time, until the digital cameras. And same thing for TVs, the standard TV was 4/3. So the TV screen is 4 by 3, the ratio. And then someday in Japan, Asia, whatever, I don't know, maybe in the US, maybe in Europe, said, it's not a nice ratio, 4/3. And actually the cinema was not using 4/3. They were using CinemaScope, and that's where it's coming interesting. So they came up with those 69s TV screens. Why 69s? That's the golden number. So our TVs are now based on a number that was used by the Egyptian, the Maya, the Greek, the first Christian who built churches and so on, because it's a beautiful ratio. So each time we watch TV 69s, we're looking at an image that has thousands of years of history, and that you can find in the animal kingdom in a lot of areas. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. So you see, I moved the legs, and now I believe that they're where they should be. So I'm an happy painter. Once again, they're not perfect. Now imagine I'm going to spend 1 hour 30 to paint that thing, or 2 hours, whatever. Now imagine if I was spending a month on that painting. And so Da Vinci, Michelangelo, all those painters, Van Dyck, Velázquez, they didn't have internet, they didn't have TV, they didn't have the radio, they didn't have music. So they had a lot of time to paint. But it's also a discipline, it's not only, what do you do today? Oh, I'm getting bored, I'm going to spend the whole day painting. There was also something about the dedication, about the, their relationship with religion and God. Like how does it feel to paint a scene from the Bible when you deeply believe in God? How does it feel to paint Jesus when you deeply believe in God? Can you even paint Jesus when you believe in God? I don't know. I've done a couple of paintings, religious painting, but it's something sadly we don't do that much anymore. I would love for a church to contact me and say we need a 8x10 painting for the altar. I would love that. I've done it in France long time ago, and it was really, really challenging and interesting. I did the cross path in a church. Okay, so I'm getting closer from painting, starting the head. And if you have followed the other course, you know sometimes I'm working on the head before the end of the painting and so on. I don't know, for this one, once again, it just, each painting has its own rules about the priorities, about what it is we want to talk about, what it is we think is essential. For me, this one, the head, if the head is important, I think because the head is almost like is secondary, for me it was more about everything that was happening here. And I'm still not done. So maybe this painting will take me much more time than most of the other one. Okay, that thing that goes here goes there. Okay, so you see I'm judging those hair based on what's happening here as well. So it helps me to look at them. I talk and I forgot to double check my measurement, and I have to change a couple of things here. Okay, let's go back into that, the complexity of that leg. Okay, first, that line here is a bit darker. Then I have that thing, yes, that I got it right. Now what I didn't get right is the distance here and here, so that thing is actually a bit shorter. I have some okay, here we are. We have the joint here. Therefore, that means that thing is here. That leg, this one is super difficult because the contrast, there's some really light color and this black, and it's difficult to get, the roundness of that muscle. That little one, I know exactly which muscle it is. We have the same here. That's a great thing when you start studying muscles. Pretty much all the animals have the same muscle groups or muscle shapes. So once you know the muscle on human or whatever, you can apply that to pretty much all the animal kingdom. Cats. There's always a little bit of difference, of course, but roughly we all build the same. It's mechanical problems. So I don't know if I talked about, I mean, because, you know, I have some lost videos, you know, talking about mechanism and so on. I explained a little bit about the vision, the eyes, like the horses have eyes on the side because they are prey. And the predators, they have eyes in the front because they need to grab things. So we have eyes in the front. So that means we're not really a prey. It's also because we grab things. But the monkeys are eyes in the front, and I mean, some of them, they eat meat. They're pretty much, I mean, they're not carnivores, but they can eat pretty much anything, so. So sometimes people ask me, you know, like they ask me for a quote for a portrait and so on. And as you see on this painting, it's, you know, sometimes I ask for the image because the complexity of the image can change something from simple to really complicated. I think this horse, that's too much. I don't like it. It's getting in the front. This image, this horse, for example, is definitely complex. Also because of the background. I'm going to have to start the head at some point. It's funny because when you go to art school or, you know, any kind of studio that is live drawing, often people don't draw the head of the models. You know, it's a lot of bodies, beheaded bodies. And I get that, you know, because it's really where you can fail. I think my problem is that there's a passage here. It's like the light is circulating through here, yes. Because I have this white spot here, but and this one here that is really white as well. Okay, mister. Let's move to your head. So there's this little white thing here that is the only indication about the neck. I mean, we have a little thing here that can give a little bit of information, but pretty much we don't have a lot. Yes, we have here, it's a bit. So you see those two lines, gray, lighter gray lines, they actually draw the chest. Okay, and so actually I think it's more like this. And then we have that beautiful wavy line here that goes up, that goes down, and that goes almost disappearing here. And then we have those things here that just follow. I'm going to have to work on that. And I have this. You see the magic eraser, the finger? Sometimes it makes a mess, more than it fixes anything. So be careful with it. It's not because it's blurry that... blurry is not an excuse or a way to make things look like they're okay while they're not okay. Don't use the blurriness too much. Just remember that the blurriness can be a deadly weapon if it's not used properly. You can make something true blurry, but if you make something wrong blurry, it's still going to be wrong. And actually, it might increase the feeling of you're trying to hide something. Okay, so I have this big jaw. There's something wrong here. I don't know what I've done. I think there's more volume here. There's definitely a wider line here. Now let's work a little bit on the harness. The harness is something really great because it gives us a structure into the head. So the harness goes from, so the top of the harness starts from here. So we have the top of the harness here, but then it turns right away here. And then it goes on the chic here. Okay, then we have something here. We have a shadow here. Where's the eye? The eye is roughly here somewhere. We'll figure it out. And then the cheek becomes a bit darker. Okay. Now, okay, the eye is here. I have a little black triangle here. And so my harness is still here, and I have a darker line here. I think my nose is too long. Okay, let's check the nose. Where is the tip of the nose? The tip of the nose is here. Let's make sure I'm good. So I have this thing here, and the chest is starting from here. Okay. So the tip of the nose is actually here. So I think my nose was too long. Once again, it doesn't matter because I can, as you know, I can change everything anytime. But I think that was it. Yes, I think I'm more balanced like this. What about this here? This here is just at the... Okay, I need to put that. So between the eye and the nostril, I have the harness. So the harness is pretty much, it's a bit closer to the eye. So it's somewhere here. And it's not black, it's more of a gray. Now the interesting thing is that the harness disappears with the background, in the background. So what I mean by that is the black here gets into, that's what I call the passage again. And then I have my cheek that gets in, and here it's really dark. Then I have the mouth. I was telling you earlier that I love to touch the mouth of horses. They are like velvet. And then I have a white spot here, but then the nose turns like this, goes underneath, using the black. Okay. So the way I build the head is exactly the way I build the rest of the horse, but it's just smaller scale, smaller area by necessity, because that's how the head is obviously smaller than the rest of the body. I have something here that goes like this. My here. His ears remember me of the ears of Shrek, the green monster. They're really long. So you see, when I paint like this precisely, I just find a spot. So you can use a, the old way was a stick. So I will let you figure out what you think is the best for you. Sometimes I use one of my brush, I just put like this, and I'm, because the contact, like this, the contact of the brush here, and I can use the brush to hold my my hand. This one might be one of the longest time I would have spent on those horse painting. And as I told you, I cannot predict before I start the painting how long it will take me to do it. I mean, roughly I can know, but you know, sometimes people ask me as well, you know, how long does it take you to do a portrait? It's a really difficult question to answer because for the reason that, you know, each portrait is different. Someday I'm going to find the likeness right away. Sometime I'm going to lose the likeness right away. And it's going to take me hours and hours to get it back. So it just... And now the white on the forehead, which is not white, it's a gray. And of course I messed it up because I made it flat and I need some variation, so it means some lighter color here. I don't know about that. I have this little light here, little light around the mouth, which can come from the foam when they get sweaty. That's the leather. Let's try to draw this side of the head, because actually that goes like this. There's a little inside here. That's pretty thin. That's pretty thin too. Here it's more dark. We don't really see le frein. I don't know. I know the name in French, but not in English. The reason I know the name in French is because I was around horses for a while. Okay, I'm going to switch to a woody tiny brush for some details, and we should be fine. Once again, it's not, my goal is not to make a horse perfectly, you know. Maybe we'll do that someday. Maybe, you know, if you're really interested, maybe we can push that thing to really, instead of spending 1 hour 30, I can spend 30, 40 hours on it and see what would be the result. I mean, I have an idea of the result, actually. You know, I think it would be pretty close to photorealism. I mean, my work is not photorealistic, so, but from the distance, it can give the illusion it's a photo. I get that a lot with the portrait. Well, honestly, if you look at them from close, they're not photorealistic at all. Okay, now let's paint those beautiful buckles. Geez, it looks like a horse. It looks a bit different on the screen than in real. You know, I think the screen is picking up more the brownish paper underneath. So, and I'm not a big fan of that, but it's what it is. Okay, so I have the buckle here. And I have another one here that is really white. Okay. I can work a little bit more on the piece that the violinist really love. I mean, it's more the back, it's more the tail actually. Yeah. Just one last thing that bugs me a little bit is that with this one that was not gray but more of a brownish, because it's by transparency with the paper underneath, and I didn't really like it. The neck needs to be, you don't want the neck to be too much of a cylinder, perfect cylinder. It needs to be a bit more, you know, some variation and so on. And as you know, the little tiny brush with a little bit of off-white for the little dot here. And there's something here. But you see, that's what I was saying earlier. You know, there's some areas that don't really matter, because if you make them the proper way, I mean the proper way, the way it is on the photo, the importance, there's some area that's not something that comes in front for me. Maybe it will be in your painting, because you know there's a lot of things that you by the way you look at the image and so on, you might get a little bit of a different priority on elements than me. That's where, as painters, we came in the equation. And just one more thing and I will be done. I mean, so far. I feel this line here, I want it to be more of a circle here. Okay. So this one took me a long time. Let's make it clear. The reason why, it's, I think it just, the image was maybe more challenging, more complex. So it might be a 2 hours painting and not 1 hour, 1 hour 30. So this is my horse. Where are you? No, it's here. Yeah, it's here. Trying to find the right. Anyway. I hope you enjoy painting with me, and I hope to see you soon again. Okay, bye.